It's day 35, 36 of our MCOR lockdown so far. It's Ellie here from Team Huddle, and welcome to our second live session. Okay, for those who might have missed out on our first session, we talk about why do joggers still go out jogging during the lockdown the other week. And I had Ibrahim and Lisa, the ultra marathon runners, with me. You can check it out on our Huddle YouTube page if you miss out on that one. And today we would like to touch on a special topic, mental health. So for normal people like you and me, we might have our own multiple scattered breakdowns happening, and we might not be familiar in handling them. As none of us, I'm pretty sure none of us, at least from my generation, has ever faced this kind of situation before. So it's really refreshing to have some guidelines and dig ourselves deeper into this issue from the experts. I have two guests on board with me today. It's Ben Ibrahim and Philip Liu. Thank you so much for saying yes to talking to us today. Hi guys.
Hey,
Hi,
Ellie.
Some of you might be familiar with Ben, as the gentleman himself is a TV presenter with Fox Sports Asia. You might have seen him on TV before, quite a famous face right here. And Mr. Philip representing ISN as the sports psychology officer. So Ben, you want to start first? You want to introduce yourself? Like, what do you do? And yeah.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Ellie, for the introduction. Nothing much to tell. I've been in the sports and broadcast. I've been in the broadcast business. I started as a broadcaster. And then after that, my passion has always been in sport. And I managed to get over to join the Ministry of Youth and Sports with ISN and MSN in about 4 or 5 years ago. And that's where I worked with Philip, and we became very good friends, working in not just sports psychology, but helping athletes and coaches achieve goals and objectives. So I'm not a veteran in the sports industry, but I have some experience under my belt. But so during the day, I work in sports communications. I work as the PR manager for MABA at the moment. But on the side, I do TV commentary for sports. I do performance and development leadership workshops for not just sporting teams, but for corporations as well. So Philip and I are a firm believer. Sorry, Phil, if I'm speaking on your behalf, but Phil and I are a firm believer that sport is a great positive life educator and metaphor for people inside sport and outside sport.
That's right. So, like, given just a disclaimer, like, so now I have to moderate a talk with 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 someone who's more expert. So, like,
not at all.
Yeah, don't mind me, okay? All right, Philip, you wanna walk us through with what you've done with ISN so far? How long you've been working for ISN, and why did you go for sports psychology in the first place?
Okay, thank you, Ellie, and hi, Ben. Hi, everyone. My name is Philip. I'm currently working as a sports psychology officer with the National Sports Institute of Malaysia, or commonly known as ISN, since 2015. And similar like what Ben mentioned just now, I have a huge passion towards sports, and I'm very, very interested to know how the psychology of an athlete, like how mindsets or behavior affects performance. So I'll categorize my job role into three particular roles and three particular categories. One would be the applied work, such as providing psychological support to the national athletes and coaches, training as an on-site, like during competitions, like the upcoming Olympics, the preparation for upcoming Olympics, and even the Commonwealth Games in 2022, Asian Games, World Championships, and to be able to help the athletes to manage the psychological demands of their sports. The second role would definitely be an instructor for the sports science courses for the AKK, which is the National Academy of Coaching, and also sports psychology specific courses for football, such as the Pro Diploma license for FAM and AFC. Besides that, I'm also a researcher, so we have published research on the psychological studies with our fellow colleagues, and also a manuscript reviewers. So back to the point, I think the reason why I'm in ISN is because we love sports, we love Malaysian sports, and we love the feeling of supporting our national athletes.
That's really nice to know someone coming from ISN. I mean, I've never spoken to anyone officially from ISN, so it would be nice to get some insights from the National Institute. We would love to focus the area of this topic today with. We're going to engage with a lot more insights on how do our national athletes are going to benefit from if they manage to have a very good case of managing their mental health well going through this pandemic, because we know it directly affects their career in the sense. But then before we go on to that, maybe we want to start first with performance, lifestyle, mental health tips that everyone who's watching can apply, for everyday athletes, for people who don't watch sports, human beings in in the first place who's going through the pandemic. Well, what's your take on that, Ben?
Nothing much really. Again, before we start, I'm gonna apologize, and I know Phil's gonna laugh at me. Is that sometimes being in this line of work, you come up with cliches, but I don't like to use the word cliches. It's about the simplicity. In sport, we always speak about the simplicities, the basics. If you're a basketball player, work on your footwork, work on your fitness. So, you called us experts just now, Ellie, but one thing, Phil and I, we are learning every day. We learn through our mistakes. We learn through our milestones. I call it the chocolate effect, M&M, milestones and mistakes. So, we're just learning really. So, to answer your initial question, it's a time to reflect. You've got some time on your hands. Some people might have some time. So you got time to reflect and also look at what you've done well, but look at what you've done not so well. Just to use a basketball example, Kobe Bryant recently just passed away. He had a thing called the Mamba mentality, which was about continuous improvement every day. I'm trying to implement that in my house. So we spoke off air about what's it like managing my children full time now, that I don't have to be in the office. It's a big job. It's a big job. Salute to all full-time mothers and fathers out there in the world. So, that's something that are instilled in my house. Mamba mentality, work hard, have your values, have your manners, and always try to be not, as we say in Malaysia, shock sendiri. Think that you're the bomb. Look at how you can do things better. So today, it's really ironic that we're having this chat today. I put a photo of myself on Instagram when I moderated a session with Pele, the football player. This was about 5 years ago, and the Malaysian national team. It was a huge milestone for me. But I said, okay, since I've got nothing to post about on Facebook, I'll just post, or on Instagram, I'll just post about my career and my reflections. But I put there the hashtag key learnings. And key learnings doesn't mean the things that you did well. What could you have done better? So the phrase that I've coined with my children in the house is mistake. What did we take out of the miss? Okay, so it's not a negative thing, it's a bad thing. And you know what we Malaysians are like. We like to say, making a mistake is the end of the world. So I think, and Philip and I, when we were in our respective companies, when I worked with Philip, which is not that long ago, we tried to cultivate a culture of that. But when you're going up against people, I'm not saying that it happened, but sometimes in certain teams, people don't have that mindset. So if you can just say, look, the reason why successful people won gold medals, won world championships, became a successful CEO, became a successful entrepreneur, they were never satisfied. So use this time to say, okay, look back at the milestones. We live in an era of a phone where you can take a photo with everything. Look back at your hashtags. Look back at your milestones. Look back at the events that you went to. What could you have done things better? Hindsight, as they always say, with the benefit of hindsight, is the easiest thing in the world to say. But use this opportunity to say, okay, hindsight, I could have gone about it this way. Would I have achieved a gold medal? Would I have gone faster? Would I have been stronger? Could I have performed better under pressure? So to cut a long story short, I've started to do that, and I've only started to do that yesterday. So, hopefully I can, just go through every day and use Instagram and Facebook and the hashtags to our benefit, and just to see how I can improve. And I'm sure some of the athletes are doing it already. Yeah. Okay. But a lot of the athletes probably are not, because they're not used to that culture of reflection. And the good old saying is, a reflection is a hallmark of a champion.
It's really interesting how you share, how you emphasize on we are always learning every single day, because that reminds me of something that I came across today as well in my reading earlier today. Is there's always something similar about successful people, is that the purpose of them thriving, starting their journey on becoming a successful person, is because there was an unfinished business in their life before. But then when you ask them, like, now you've achieved something big, why do you want to go for more? And it's always the same answer coming from the same kind of people, is that the business is never finished. There's always something more to explore. It's really nice how it's always the same mentality. It's a really good take on that. Thanks, Ben. And Philip, you want to share with us generally, right, before we go more into your experience working with athletes, the more serious demands coming from their career and everything, but as a person, as a normal human being, going through a new day, what's your advice on us shaping our mentality going through something new, something unfamiliar like this pandemic or lockdown we're facing now?
Okay, thank you, Ellie, and thank you, Ben. I think Ben gives a lot of good statements and also a lot of good analogy about how we are actually, for me, I think me and Ben and all of us, we are actually the students of the game. We keep learning and we keep improving, and every single experience or every single challenge that we face, we are technically learning how is the best way to motivate it and how we're going to navigate through the situations. And as we mentioned earlier, the movement control order, the pandemic, and the current situation for me is unprecedented in our experience. Nobody has experienced before. I don't think there is any guidebooks or guidelines to tell you how you're going to overcome it. But we are just learning phase by phase, step by step, and hopefully the situation will become better. One of the things that I emphasize on to the athletes, and I think Ben just now already mentioned about it, reflection is very, very key criteria at this moment. If you watch the interview done by Arsenal coach or Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta did mention that at this time he actually set homeworks for his players to actually reflect on what they have done and how to improve moving forward towards the season. Whether the season will be held, whether the season will continue or not, nobody knows. But it is your job or your responsibility to reflect on what has been done and how do I do better, maybe after the MCO is lifted. And another thing that I would emphasize on will be there is no one-size-fits-all approach to overcoming the different stress that we experience. And first and foremost, we need to understand the psychological structure of the mind. So uncertainty, stress, and also anxiety do escalate when we are facing with situations that we are not being able to control. That is, I think it's not just athletes, it's also normal human beings. When there's unknown outcome, like the unpredictability in life, or when our plans become indecisive, and we have a survival instinct, like where we have fear of the illness. Whenever we go out, we need to wear masks. And this actually adds to the anxiety and stress that you are feeling. One of the mantra that usually we emphasize to the athletes and coaches is we call it focus on what you can control. And the stability and assurance do help the mind to be more secure and also to be more focused. Two things that usually, as a sports psychology officer, we emphasize on a lot. One would be mindset, which is what Ben mentioned earlier, is how do we think? And another one is the behavior part of the athlete or the individual, which is how do we act. Emphasizing on the controllable factors of the mindset and also the behavior do helps to give a more comprehensive psychological structure to an athlete's career and an athlete's life. And the things that you can't control, such as the action of others, predicting what will happen, how long will the MCO last, how long will the pandemic last, these are the things that, to be honest, is out of your control. And another example that is one of my athletes told me was that how many papers are there in the market? And these are things that you really can't control, and you will get agitated and you get frustrated and get stressed for no reason. But the things that you can control, such as adhering to the laws of the MCO, providing the time and space to yourself, I think this is a good time for you to sit down, reflect, and give time to yourself, and taking care of your personal hygiene, establishing daily routines such as your food intake, your sleep, and also having, I would say, a positive attitude would be very, very beneficial, especially going through this situation. Finally, another thing that I will touch on is on the social media. I think that all of us are on social media. The WhatsApp, the Facebook is loaded with lots and lots of information. Some are genuine information and some are rumors. And some of them are actually negatively affected by the information and stories that you see. And if you're feeling too anxious and feeling too distressed when you're reading through all the information, it is time or it's good for you to reduce the time that you spend on the social media. And the last thing that I would mention on is that for the initiative that ISN is doing from the National Sports Institute of Malaysia, through our social media such as Twitter, Insta, and also Facebook, we actually are putting information and infographics that will be useful on the psychological support, nutrition support, and also the physical training recommendations by the professionals in ISN, and it will be a beneficial resources for whoever is interested to read.
Taking, referring back to what you mentioned to us just now, taking full ownership of things that we can control. That's how you can start breaking down your thoughts in a more positive manner instead of, having a chaotic mind and thinking about a lot of things in a bigger picture. That's a really good take on that. Thanks, Philip, for sharing that, and Ben as well. Now, moving on, we are entering phase 3 of lockdown, or the MCO. Some people have not left their house for a month and will be at least another 2 weeks, probably. I'm pretty sure it's going to be expanded. It's not being I'm just being realistic about it, right? In some cases, away not just from work but family and loved ones. Some individuals. Is there a specific advice you would give, for those who are dealing with extended durations of various stress and inconsistencies? And is there a difference in approach between day 30 and day 1? Ben, you want to start this?
Yeah, okay, I'll give it a stab. But basically, like Philip said, there's no one size that fits all. Every athlete is different. Some people are positive thinkers. Some people are negative thinkers. It's very easy to say be positive, but I mean, it's kind of sometimes the hardest thing in the world to do, because there's no Panadol for it. There's no juice for it. You just slowly just gotta try to bit by bit improve yourself every day. But I was involved. I'm involved with a rugby team called the Malaysia Falcon, which is an international rugby team. I'm the team manager of the team. It's mainly South African players with some Malaysian players. We played one round this year, and then after that, our tournament was cancelled. So what we kept telling each other is, look, this is nobody's fault. This is an act of God. It's not like someone stole or someone punched or someone kicked us. It's just it happened, and it happened for a reason, and hopefully there's some positives at the end of the day. The positive that I take from COVID-19 is that I get to spend more time with my family. I hardly see them because I'm doing about 6 or 7 jobs on the go. So it's nice waking up to them, having breakfast with them. I cook my children eggs for the first time ever. I don't think it was
milestone.
I don't think it was very tasty, but doesn't matter. They just chopped the, Dada cooked eggs. And I think my daughter is on Instagram now. She put it on her Instagram. So I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. So, I mean, that's how to be positive, that you take that, and I put that on Instagram just to remind myself that how good it is to be with the family. That's one part. But I suppose with athletes, it's a great way to test your creativity. A lot of the athletes have a huge Instagram following. Saidatul Afifa with bowling, Sarah from Taekwondo, Azizul Hasni Awang from cycling. And if you look at their Instagrams and their social media, they're doing patterns and exercises that you would never even think of at home. To stretch this certain muscle. Mark Lee from our rugby team, who's very social media savvy, he's showing how to do stretching exercises with towels. So I mean, if you ask the best coaches in the world, regardless of the sport, they'll always say, don't rely on yesterday's technique to win. You gotta improvise, you gotta innovate, you gotta be creative. And one thing that Philip and I over the years have worked on with certain sports, we've always told coaches, empower your athlete. Yes, we are Asian. Yes, we are from the generation of Ikut Arahan boss, but that's gotta change. Okay, so empower the athlete. I mean, if they come up to you with a bogus idea, the worst you can say is no. And no is not a bad word. People think no is a bad word, but no is not a bad word. So if I'm making sense at all, empower your athletes to be, I mean, some of them have it already, to be creative, put it out there, don't be embarrassed, and just take it from there. I mean, you learn. Like you said, I mean, I suppose the key word every day with COVID-19 or anything is learning. And learning is always a good thing. It doesn't always have to be a win or, a positive. You could take stuff out of things that didn't go so well.
That's true. That's a really refreshing way of seeing things from athletes' perspective, right? That things that you mentioned with us when you have now we are blessed with the amount of time that we have that we'll be able to reflect on ourselves. And for these athletes, like, hey, I get to do other things. I get to engage with my, I don't want to say fans, but people who actually follow my career in a different way. Things like those creative workout workout drills that they share on the Instagram, things that we might not be able to get from our national athletes on their usual daily basis because they're just so busy. It's really nice, and how Philip shared with us as well. I'm not going to be biased, Philip, but thank you for sharing. Thank you for highlighting the best football club in the world, Arsenal. Yeah,
I
they
won't tell
learn
you which
from.
football club I support.
Can we know, Ben? What is it?
It is the
Not
land
first.
of growing opportunity, the Toffees.
So yeah, let's just go back to Arsenal then. That
I thought you'd say that. Yeah.
So it's really nice when you're given the room
we,
to
we, we,
reflect.
we made Mikel Arteta a good player, okay?
Hey, that, and he's the first. You know what? He's the actual reason why EPL had to come up with the official statement that, hey, we are actually doing something about this virus. It needed it needed an EPL manager to. I don't want it's unfortunate it happened to him, but but it's good that everything has been handled now. But yes, going back to that point, Philip, when you said that when athletes or individuals are given, I would say it's a blessing that you're given this time to reflect. I see it in a positive way that it's time for the earth to heal as well. It's really nice to see all the developments on the weather and everything, right? You are allowed to touch on aspects of yourself that you have long left behind, and moving forward, and those are the things that you would carry forward as well. So is there anything else that you want to share with us, Philip, on this point? The acceptance, probably the stages of accepting things, or from day one to day 30 now. How do we maneuver with that?
I think for the athletes and the coaches, especially the athletes, is that they still have a very specific training programs that they need to adhere to, even when they are in MCO and at home. And two things are the two aspects that we usually focus on is, first and foremost, is the objective. Why do you do it? Second is the effectiveness of your approach. If you are satisfied with the plans that you're doing and you can still see the effectiveness in it, if it isn't broken, why do you need to fix it? The second part of it is what Ben mentioned just now, and I know that there are some individuals that really start voicing out that they are feeling boring and they're feeling that activities are becoming dull. So adding creativity into the training programs they're doing, interchanging between the activities they're doing, creating challenges. I think that I've seen so many challenges online, hashtag stay home challenge, create different targets, different challenges, different activities that you can do. I 100% agree with what Ben said. In our athletes are very social media savvy. Like some of my netballers, like Fariha, she has huge media followers, and also our long bowlers on their Facebooks. They actually created a lot of simple drills that are able to be done, not just by athletes, but also can be done by individuals. And besides that, I think this is a time that we can involve more individuals, such as family, friends, and even coaches. Because nowadays, with the advancement in technology, there are lots of challenge that you can do together. And it actually helps develop a sense of collectiveness. And hashtag is known as like feeling of togetherness in isolation.
Yeah, that's true. I really really like that. That's what I gathered from like browsing, scrolling things on our social media. We can see that sense of togetherness. I mean, I'm talking about Malaysian, right? The context is Malaysian. It's really nice to know that everyone kind of remind each other, like, hey guys, we are in this together. It's a war to win together. Let's just do whatever, contribute to the nation in whatever way that we can do by just staying home. This is why we came out with the first topic, like, why do these joggers still run out there? But we try to be fair, maybe because there were loopholes where when the announcement came out, so some people were confused, so they thought, I can still go out, but I just have to ensure that the social distancing happens, right? But we cleared that out in our discussion. Moving forward, I think the sense of togetherness gives people comfort. Do you agree with me on that?
Yep.
Does that help us as a human being to go through this thing together? But then I wouldn't, as much as we want to be positive, right? And that's the mentality that we want to instill. We cannot deny the reality that there are days that we're gonna be having breakdowns and all, right? So could you recommend any strategies? Like for example, you, Ben, like if you came up with this schedule, like, hey, I'm gonna work out twice a week because I can't go out and everything now, but you realize that not today, man, just not today. So like, could you recommend any strategy for people who are exercising at home to keep up their motivation, especially like maybe they have lack of space, or it's just so chaotic in their mind? How do you want to share with us that?
When you say people, Ellie, do you mean non-sporting people, or just like the general average public person, or sports people in general, or
General public, anyone probably who has never worked out before, now they think it's a good thing to work out.
Well, yeah, that's a very good question. It's a very interesting point. I'm going to keep repeating what Philip says. Everybody's different, and you cannot just put a blanket over it and it's going to work.
That's true.
Look, we live in a society, Malaysian society, that has very, very high levels of a record of diabetes. We live with a society that people who are obese. We live in a society of people who are not as well read as what we would like. Studies have shown Malaysians are not a culture that likes to read. It has improved here and there, but still generally compared to other countries, not so good. We have a culture of a few things, unfortunately, a few more negatives than positives. So why not take this opportunity to, I'm going to slim down. I'm going to try to lose a couple of kilograms. I'm going to try just to go for, it's like sprints up the stairs.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself. It could be like you want to read 10 pages a day. Okay. You want to run a little bit longer. You want to cut out certain, I know it's hard, rice out of your diet. You want to drink more water than air bandung. Okay, and what is the hardest drink in the world to drink in this part of the world? So yeah, just little challenges like that. I mean, for me, I don't know what happened to me over the weekend. Maybe it was your phone call, Ellie. Was this that I challenged myself to do a beep test? Okay, and I haven't done a beep test since I left. My university days. So I did a beep test on Friday and I did a beep test on Sunday, and the scores was not as bad as I'd expected. And I said to myself, okay, I'm going to have a challenge because, cut a long story short, I broke my leg when I was young, which ended my athletic career. So I didn't get to play a lot of sports at school. So I didn't get through, that's why I went into coaching and TV presenting and events and all that very early in my life compared to trying to be the full-fledged athlete. So, my last memory of a beep test wasn't very good when I was like 15, 16. So I said, okay, I'm older now. I'm wiser. I'm not as strong, but maybe I am strong. Maybe I'm mentally tougher. So my beep test was better than what I was when I was younger. So I said, it can only get better. I'm trying to, with fasting month coming around the corner, it's going to help a lot. I'm trying to lose at least 3-4 kg. Before I go to bed, I'm going to try to read more. I'm not like Phil, who's a readaholic, so like that's such a word. I'm going to try to read more, reflect on a lot more. So that, I suppose, like, you've got to pick what works for you to try to improve yourself, not just mentally, but physically as well. It'll help the time go by, and you'll just really feel that you're living in an environment, or that you created an environment in your home that it is still a high achieving culture. It's no different to the office, but the focus is very much on yourself.
That's true. Probably the key from it is like, first, you do not compare yourself.
Yeah. And just probably, if I'm jumping the gun a bit, I hope I'm not stealing the next a few questions down. Sports is not, or life is not just about athletes, the people who are doing it. It's also about the people who are showing leadership and direction. And coaches and managers and directors, they're only human as well. They make mistakes. So why not take a time and reflect on what they've done well and not so well? And maybe they can, YouTube is phenomenal. I go to bed quite late because of YouTube, in terms of like checking out what other coaches are doing. We're talking about Arsenal. I love watching those masterclass classes of not the big coaches. Like, I know what Carlo Ancelotti did. I know what Sir Alex Ferguson did. But I want to know what Phil, jump in at any time here. What's the coach, the Portuguese coach who was a goalkeeper who's coaching that team, who's 8th on the table at the moment? Wolves, yeah. Yeah, like I love watching his masterclasses on how he tries to neutralize certain players, get players sitting down in positions, and the opposition will not expect that, so they could start the attack, or how they stop the other team from attacking. I think coaches, the young coaches, maybe not, and even if you're a young coach and older coach, you can do that. There's no such thing as right learning and wrong learning. So, and when I was growing up, because I'm a little bit older than you guys, we had to go to books and magazines. There was no YouTube, So that's something that we should all be exploring, I think. And that's why I've got big eye bags, because I sleep late. Because I'm watching YouTube and all these phenomenal content that's on the tube at the moment.
You remind me of Arsene Wenger, who spent all his days in a hotel room, like studying all Manchester United videos just for the sake of coming out with a perfect plan or gameplay. Yeah, and sorry, I'm just highlighting back on the best football manager in the world. It reminds me of that, because when you allow yourself to sit down and actually think about a plan that you want to come up with to improvise with people around you. That's what, because you were talking from different perspective of these coaches and managers, right? Because people are putting high expectations on them, and when things fail, the attention goes to them first, without taking into account the amount of time and energy that they have allocated for the team. It's really great. For you, Philip, I'm just gonna touch on. There's a question coming from Sophia Izrina. Thank you for asking. So she asked, for those who are not as used to reflecting, or anyone really, what are some pointers for reflection? What kind of questions should we be asking ourselves to help initiate the process? Where do we start, Philip?
The easy questions that usually we will set is that, first and foremost, before you start any process or any approach, try not to think of it like it is too bombastic. For me, it is always good to keep it simple. We have an analogy that we use. We call it CSI. C is clear, S is simple, and I is important. So these are the 3 aspects that we usually focus on. So it could be as simple as asking, how do you feel? Or what have you done throughout the whole MCO period? It doesn't need to be a long-winded essay, but it could be just a few sentences, and it's just to reflect to you about what actually have you done. And I think, to just quote from an article by J.K. Rowling, she is like slamming some of those life coaches to say that during this MCO period, you need to achieve something. It's almost like if you don't achieve something, you're useless, that kind of mindset. But at this time, spending time with yourself and spending time with your family is actually an achievement on its own. And it is, and what Ben mentioned earlier, that says that if you can keep yourself physically fit, this could be part of your reflection as well. One of the ways that usually I would suggest to my athletes, we'll be trying this for a while, is that actually you could, every day, you could take a photo of different parts of your home, anywhere, wherever it is. It could be the sky, outside your home, or the gate, or wherever it is. And you could just write maybe 5 words or sentence about what actually do you feel when you take the photo. And this could be part of a simple reflection.
That's really good. I've never really seen it that light, but it's yes. But Philip, what do you say when some people who actually dwell, they take a longer time to dwell on where to start? Do they just maybe they can start by looking at small things first? You know what I'm trying to say, right? Focus on the small things like back to the point that you shared with us. Maybe spend time on things that they can take control of first, instead of looking at everything in a bigger picture, right?
I think the question now is all about time and space, or too much time and space can be a good friend or a very bad enemy, because it allows you to think too much at times. And our brain is very, very capable of thinking too much negative stuff. And to remind you what Ben mentioned just now, I agree. It is very, very, very difficult to always be positive. I'm not going to say that every single day I woke up, every single moment, 24/7, I'm feeling positive. And to be honest, if you're feeling a bit down, you're feeling a bit negative today, it's fine. This is normal human feelings. And usually this is what we tell to the athletes and the coaches and even to normal individuals. If you are feeling a bit, we call it not in the weather, it's fine, it's okay. It means that you're human. Only
Yeah.
robots have no feelings.
Yeah.
And we should be comfortable to be uncomfortable. And that is how it is. So focusing on what you can control and what you can do, and for me, is the most important. And based on what is being mentioned in the session earlier, like the advancement of technology, the YouTubes, the Facebook, the Insta, actually, if you're feeling a bit down, actually you could get support from your friends or your peers. And there are lots of people that usually do exercises or physical training together because they create a sense of support and a sense of collective environment that allows people to push harder. Besides that, sessions can be creative, sessions can be flexible, and sessions can be enjoyable. I know that some people do yoga, they do Tabata, they do fit, and you can do whatever it is. And most importantly is that you can practice together no matter where you are, virtually. And finally is that you can even create some challenges for your own self. This is, I think, what Ben mentioned earlier. Like you can participate in online competitions and create the feeling of competition. As we mentioned earlier about jogging, I know that I've seen on the news that someone actually completed a full marathon in their home.
Yeah, we talked to that guy last week, Mr. Yim. He's an ultra marathon. Yeah, it's really great. It's so guys, remember that it's normal to have breakdowns as long as we get up from it the next day. You know, just keep on moving forward and taking everything as a normal process as a human being. Okay, guys, we're gonna talk about. I want to talk about a bit about national athletes since you, Ben.
Sorry, Eddie.
Sorry, Ben.
I just want to add on to one thing that Phil said. That CSI thing is very, very good. But just to share with people out there who are listening and to that, what's the name of that person who asked the question?
Sophia.
Sophia.
Yeah.
Was this? It's always good to start with like I think Phil said this just now. It's good to start with questions. In anything that I do or anything that I work with and the people that I work with, and one thing that I learned from mentors in the past, like Phil said, keep it clear, keep it simple. Don't keep it so complicated. It's not funny. Like when you're giving a PowerPoint presentation, don't make it 30 slides. Just make it 3 or 4 slides. Okay, so it's simple here. Start with all the question, 5 W's and a H. What are you trying to achieve? Where are you trying to achieve it? Who is involved? You know, and how are you going to do it? And you can put it all on paper. And those questions can be altered every 3-4 days, the answers to the questions. You know, because I think a lot of people will always, like, if you ask anybody out there, they'll just say, work hard, be passionate. But what does that mean? You know, so you've got to break it down into context, especially when you're dealing with young people. Keep it simple and just, start with the question. Very similar to CSI. If it's clear, if you can, and my philosophy is if you can say everything in one sentence, one question, one sentence, one question, one sentence. It's going to be clear. So that's going to give you the comfort to know what you're going to achieve. Once you have comfort, you have confidence.
That's true. I hope that answers your question, Sophia. She says, thank you guys. I appreciate your insights on it. Okay, now I want to move forward with talking about national athletes, since both of you have worked with them in a personal sense, in a professional capacity as well. So let's talk about a bit our national athletes and some of the players that you guys work with in different capacities. In general, will athletes be directly impacted of the consequences of dealing with COVID-19, or is this more of a much needed break from their usual grind? And Philip, you can go take a start.
Yeah, sure. I would say both, because they would definitely be directly impacted by the consequences of dealing with the ongoing MCO and also the COVID-19 pandemic. Because putting aside their physicality and also their sporting talents, athletes are normal human beings, regular human beings, and they will experience all the emotions and the challenges that normal individuals face in their everyday life. That is one thing that we need to emphasize on. When we're working with athletes, I emphasize on human being first, athlete second philosophy. It is our greatest pride to witness athletes to be developing into fully functioning human beings. And at the same time, we hope that they'll be able to achieve their sporting goals. It also means that we need to prepare the athletes on the common issues that they may encounter in their daily life. Having a much needed break is definitely an advantage of the current MCO, as it provided athletes more time and space to reflect, as we mentioned earlier, recharge, and to reconnect with themselves. As I've experienced while traveling with them regularly during competitions and to overseas, the sporting personnel do spend a lot of their times on the road, moving from countries to countries, training camps and participating in competitions, missing important festivals such as Hari Raya festival or the birthday of the loved ones. So the time with the family can be very minimal. And this current situation actually provides them with the opportunity to spend valuable time with their families. And several of my athletes actually reported that they felt that it really helps their mental health tremendously by being conducting activities with their family, such as drawing with their kids, singing with their kids, playing with their kids, and be present for them. So the impact of the situation that we are facing at this moment can be influenced by the perception of an individual towards that particular issue. So let's say with a right mindset, this particular situation that we are facing could actually be a blessing in disguise.
That's right. Like, what's your take on that, Ben? Like, it's you could
No,
would it
no,
be the same?
it's good that Phil addressed the human and emotional aspect. That's why he's he's a psychologist. But I'm going to address the other side of it, which is the business side of it. And a lot of the athletes are really worried because there is no sport. There is no sport to compete. There are no tournaments. Certain sports which are like are heavily contracted to sponsors and investors. They would be feeling the pinch. Like like for example, badminton, they have to play a number of games or matches or tournaments for them to get ranking points. When their ranking points go up, they go up. Their ranking goes up. I mean, certain others, squash is like that. Individual sports are a lot of the individual racket sports are like that. So those who have sponsors have obligations. So some of them have had to have some very blunt conversation with their sponsor or investor. Look, I cannot do anything about COVID-19. Will you still fund my rice bowl? Some say yes, some say no. Everybody will turn to the ISN and the MSNs of this world to say, please give us financial aid. And I think, I'm going to be a very unpopular person and say that. I said, MSN and ISN help a lot of the national sports associations a lot financially. I was the high performance manager of MSN. I've been there before where every association would always ask you for money. And if you're, you do what you can because you get a certain amount of budget from the government every year in October. And then you you have to spread it as best as you can and as fairly as you can. And, some sports would complain, they got good funding, some sports wouldn't. So, but I'm digressing a little bit, but athletes would feel the pinch. Like, do I still get my allowances? Do I still get my subsidies? Okay, if I don't get my allowances or subsidies, where do I get it from? And this is the conversation that performance lifestyle and performance lifestyle is a very, very, very new thing in sports and also in the corporate world as well. Usually it fell on the plate of HR, training and development, and organizational development. So, but right now it's, performance lifestyle, people are saying, look, this is why you need something else outside sport. Even though it's just working at, no disrespect, working at Starbucks twice a week. At least a company like Starbucks would give you customer service experience, leadership experience, how to manage a cash flow, how to make good coffee. Making good coffee can make people smile, So things like that. So like you just need not a plan B. It's a plan A. Plan A is your sport. Plan A is also to have something that supports your sport, So and I suppose the Malaysian athletes, I'm not sure if a lot of them know how lucky they are, because I used to row and we got nothing. Okay, nothing. We had to work and compete. The Malaysian athletes, they may not get a lot, but they get some money. They get uniforms. They get their tickets taken care of by MSN and free sports science and medical services by ISN. And I'm not trying to butter anybody up. I've been there. I don't think anybody realizes how lucky you are. Certain sports associations are still continuing with the funding despite no money coming in. So that is the concern of the athlete at the moment, and especially some of the athletes that I've worked with who are married with children.
So if you've actually answered the second question I have in mind, like whether in what sense they are able to manage their concerns going through this thing together. It's that was a very I never knew that I never really took into account that kind of insight before. It's really nice to see coming from someone who has managed athletes before, and these are the things that they should be grateful for. That goes back to Philip, and guys, we have a couple more questions and we're actually running out of time. I just realized. So let's see if we can get through this quickly. So as for Philip, does ISN provide any sort of psychological skill training for the national athletes to help with coping with the issues they are facing? You mentioned you wanted to share the whole issue of postponement of Olympics. That's quite one of the biggest events.
Okay. For our support from ISN, especially the psychology department, for effective managing of anxiety and managing the situations they are facing, the psychological skills training is incorporated with the respective trainings that they are doing at the moment. And we actually keep regular consultation sessions with the athletes and the coaches on social media and also through the virtual means. The biggest headline on the 24th of March is definitely the postponement of the Olympics. Olympic Games postponed to 2021. After that, the WhatsApp started flooding with messages. Athletes, you can see locally and internationally, posting about their reactions towards the decision. There were a variety of response, I would say, and the reactions. Some were disappointed, some were frustrated, some felt relieved, some felt excited, and some really felt hopeful, especially for those that are still in the process of obtaining the qualifications. For me, at this moment, when we are preparing the athletes, one of the key parts that we work on is how to manage the expectations. Because at this moment, you have more time, which is more than 365 days for you to prepare for the biggest game in the world. So it allows you to prepare optimally and being ready to make the nations proud in Tokyo by next year, 2021. However, more opportunities, more time is provided. But at this current state, the top priority is, of course, is to stay healthy. So one of the psychological approaches that we emphasize on, besides managing the situation, is of course the goal settings. Because as you know, changes in schedules, then your targets and your goals and your plans will change. So it's almost like dreams postponed, but the passion and efforts active. But what do you do now? And how do you do it to make sure that you are in an optimal state, mentally and physically, to approach the games? Another one that we work on is on the what if scenario situations, like the preparation of possible situations that might occur, or the challenges that you face, or how do we manage it efficiently. With the combination of like the motivating self-talk, like we were talking about, like inner dialogues that you communicate with yourself, the imagery practices, the visualizations that you do, and also the relaxation techniques that you do, it actually helps the whole process to be more effective. But back to the question, back to the point, this particular support is not just given to the Olympic athletes, it's actually given to all the athletes under the program. So it's not just about the Olympic athletes, it's all the athletes, all the national athletes that we are supporting from ISN and MSN, we provide that support. And finally, is that we noticed that through this particular experience, the MCO and also the pandemic, it actually enhanced the psychological resilience qualities of the athletes. Because resilience, as we all know, is almost like bouncing back and also overcoming the adversities and the challenges. And everybody could say that the MCO and the pandemic is the biggest adversity and the biggest challenge that you will face at this moment. So it is a great experience to see that athletes and also everyone in the world is overcoming these circumstances together and becoming stronger physically and psychologically through this whole process.
Understood. It's actually back to. I just want to touch on one line that you mentioned that you shared with us. It's you can't expect everything to fall. You can't expect your timeline for the year to fall into place all the time. Now that certain things happen out of place, it's how you react to it, and that's how you can build a stronger personality on how you manage your reactions to certain consequences in your life. And I want to touch on what you shared with us as well, Ben. Earlier you said that how it's very important for them to find something out of sports, so their life doesn't revolve only around your career, and that applies to any other human with any other professions as well. Like throughout your experience, right? Like, do you see the significant difference between athletes who actually devote certain time to things, to getting their hands on things out of their career, is spending their time doing other things besides whatever they do, and comparing that kind of athlete with this athlete who just like, nah, man, it's okay. My life only revolves around sports. I'm good. I don't need anything else.
Well, no, Philip and I always joke that those athletes who are mature enough to see the bigger picture, those are the guys and girls who go on to become fantastic consultants in work, and they'll say, when I won the Olympic gold medal, so that's got everybody's attention. It may sound arrogant, it may sound poyo, but hey, you got to give props. They won something special, and not many people can say that. But no, it's all jokes aside. Yes, I mean Philip and I know certain athletes who, and there's not many of them, who have the bigger picture, who already know, and these are the ones that usually, more often than not, become captains of their team sport, and they become a real leader. I mean, they become the next president or the next director of that sports association, and they become, probably, the next big thing, and a captain of industry. So because they see that, okay, sport is a great way. I love my sport. It makes me fit. It makes me passionate. But does it necessarily put food on the table?
That's true.
So and I've worked with the the hockey team over the last couple of years, in and out. Philip was there with me as well as the sports psychologist. I was there as performance, lifestyle, and communications person. And one thing that I started with the athletes was a thing called an IDP, an individual development plan. I said, okay, it's Microsoft Excel, nothing fantastic. Column A, what's your goal in this sport? I want to play in Olympic Games. I want to play in a World Cup. While you're doing that, what's your goal for cari makan? Okay, I want to become a policeman. I am a policeman. I want to get promoted to sergeant, or captain, or a head of my platoon, or so forth, something like that. I said, okay, I work in a bank. I want to become a department head. Okay, great. Maybe you've got a diploma qualification. You might need to chase a degree. I said, you don't have to necessarily have an MBA. Maybe I said, and then maybe work towards organizations that love their sports people. Certain CEOs love their local sports heroes, so they would love to hire sports people like CIMB. They're backed cycling and squash, so they would love to. I'm sure a talent pool of cyclists and squash people would work for CIMB one day, and so forth and so forth. So yeah, always dual targets. People always say dual careers. I always say dual targets.
That's true. Like reflecting back on the purpose of why you're pursuing that one thing. Exactly. On that note, a fun fact: most of our national bodybuilders are actually police officers. And just to share my personal experience, I was with Professional Footballers Association of Malaysia for a short stint, and what we focus on back then is that we're trying to educate, because these professional footballers, right? Like some of them, they're blessed with huge income, all those luxury life that they portray on social media. But when it comes to other things, they're like, they ain't got nothing to offer. Sorry. But so that's what we're trying to educate them at one point. We're trying to push them, like, look, guys, like, you have to think beyond your career. Like, this professional sports career can only end to a certain extent, and after that you can focus on probably taking up on coaching courses and everything, like contribute back to the industry in a way that you're comfortable with, and given the skills that you have on hand. Okay guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. It's we have we're supposed to just time this talk for 30 minutes, but because it's been such a comprehensive talk, so I don't blame. We have two amazing guests on board, and they share a lot, from a lot of perspective that you would never know. Coming from people who have worked with athletes professionally, it's really nice to know how do athletes manage to handle this. It's really comforting to know that there's a proper management team attending to our athletes in this sense, and it's really good because mental health is not something that we should dismiss, right? In any sense, like you see the smiling faces of these athletes on the media. I'm extending the talk to average athletes like us, like you and me as well. But it's a good insight on our national athletes as well. So any last words coming from you two, from you Ben, or from you Philip? A message that you want to share with the audience out there regarding these topics specifically, or any message regarding this COVID-19 that we're going through.
I will let my younger colleague go first.
Go, Philip.
Because I have more things to say, isn't it?
Yeah, mine is short and sweet, mate.
Yeah, okay. So first and foremost, talking about the mental health part of it, I think that mental health is always being a taboo. Like for instance, whenever you ask people, like I'm asking Ali and Ben, how is your health? No one would actually associate it with how can your health with chronic illnesses. But when we mention about mental health, like what is your mental health, and all of a sudden everybody is taking a step back and says that, are you asking me that I'm crazy or is it I'm insane? And this is a taboo that we definitely hope that we can destigmatize for the society. And it's not just in Malaysia, it happens even internationally. And one of the things that we usually emphasize on to the coaches and to the athletes is that seek help, voice out. If you voice out, there are possibilities that we can help you. And if we can't help you, if it's way beyond our own competency, we'll move you out to professional help to be able to assist you. So there's some gentle reminders that I would share with the audiences. Of course, from the start, adhere to the movement control order, stay at home, stay safe at home, and also maintain physical distances if you want to go out. And also take care of your personal hygiene, because we notice that cleanliness do have a different make a differences in your personal perception about yourself. And finally, for the maintenance of personal well-being or psychological well-being, there's an acronym that you could use. 4-letter words, RISE, RISE. R stands for routine. So in your life, you can establish some daily routines that you can do during the MCO. Set daily goals in maintaining the physical and psychological well-being, because it helps to provide the stability and increase the motivation in your life. I stand for improve. I think there's still ample time and space that you can identify the key aspects that you want to improve, such as specific skills, a positive mindset, or even improve on your relationship. S stand for spiritual. In this moment of uncertainty, in this moment of troubled times, spiritual support and practice are helpful in strengthening the inner calmness that you feel, a sense of connection, and also the meaning in life through expressing gratitude and compassion. And finally, E is enjoy. Take this opportunity to enjoy the activities that you would love to do and enjoy to do, especially like spending time with your family, cooking. I know that quite a number of those individuals, whether athletes or not, they could become very good chef and barista at the end of the day. And watching videos, playing games, and exercising, you could learn a new knowledge. So using these 4 words, rise, you can rise above any situations and overcome all the challenges.
Thank you, Philip. Now, moving on to you, Ben. Like, what's your last take on to wrap this up?
No, I mean, I suppose my view is that Philip put some really good points, and he likes to put everything in acronyms. That's why he works for ISN. No, I'm just kidding. I like to tease him all the time. He's, a smart guy, a good friend as well. But no, I mean, for me, I would look at it from, a slightly different perspective. Like off camera, before we went on air today, we spoke about, why I have, and I love a short haircut, but over the years being in the TV industry, I could never really have a short haircut. Is because I have a scar here. And just to share with everybody, 13 years ago, was it 13 years ago? 2006, yeah. No, it's longer than that. Yeah, about 13, 14 years ago, I got robbed. I was just near in the city. I was walking back to my car. It was quite late, and a few I think they were foreign workers. They bashed me on the head with a helmet. I was in a coma. I was in the hospital. And before that, I really didn't believe in that the mind could have too many stresses. But that experience taught me that the mind can go a lot of stresses. I couldn't sleep. I had a bit of depression. Every time I walked in a car park, my fingers would move. I was really scared. And so a friend of mine just came up to me and said, "Look, I know in our culture we don't like to admit that we've got a problem." And at that time, I was just joined the company. And I was just trying to reassure that company that, look, I'm okay. Nothing's happened to me. I'm fine. I can still do the job. But I was not sleeping at night. I was sleeping at 4:00 in the morning, going to work at, I had to wake up early to go to work. So I went through a lot of depression depression. I was down. I just didn't feel good about myself. And unfortunately, being on TV, you have to feel good about yourself. Or unfortunately, however way you look at it, you got to portray that image, even though, like people say, fake it until you make it. I don't believe in that. I really believe that you got to be genuine in this day and age, or in any day and age, really. So I seek for help. I went to see a psychologist, and they didn't give me any life altering tools. They were just what, like Philip is in our friendship, someone to listen to, someone to talk to, give you a different piece of opinion. Sometimes being the devil's advocate, telling you what you do, what you do want to hear, and what you don't want to hear. So in this time, and I've started this last couple of weeks ago. I might fail in this, but I'm going to give it a shot. I know a lot of being in this line of work. I know a lot of people, and all the time you say, "Hey, let's catch up for coffee. Let's chat. Let's catch up," but we don't. So the other day, I FaceTimed a colleague, and I just said, "Hey," and then she was shocked. She was cooking while when she took my call. She said, "Are you okay?" I said, "You didn't expect that, did you?" And I just called her to say, I said, "Look, how are you? Are you okay? Are you feeling the pinch? Has the school decreased the fees for your kids, or have they increased it, or whatever? Yeah, are you going through that as well?" So, I mean, athletes and people in our industry, or anybody in general, people, reach out to someone. Don't send them a WhatsApp. I mean, I personally hate WhatsApp because, I think you should call people. I'm old school. You call people and say, "Hey, how are you?" So, and say, I mean, Philip knows this for a fact. I call him 8 times a day sometimes. Okay, so just reach out to people. Hi, how are you? No agendas, no objectives. Because when you do have time, because we're busy people, so we don't have much time for socializing. But when you do have that time to socialize, okay, you can't do it face to face, but you can do it by FaceTime, by WhatsApp, by Skype. Have a coffee in your hand, and why not? Or if not, why not book up WhatsApp with people by FaceTime, or what we're doing now?
Yeah,
It'll make you feel
that's
better.
true.
It'll make you feel a lot better, and make you feel good about yourself.
That's true. That's true. Thank you for sharing that, Ben. Thank you for sharing your story with us. That's really something I think probably most of us can relate to that. It's such a simple thing to do. It's such a simple thing to do when you think about it. Just a phone call. A phone call. I know it gives a different tone when you send a text because you don't have a tone attached to it. Rather than a phone call and actually talking to your friends who you have long not talked to. Things that I myself have been trying to do because you have plenty of time. I'm like, oh man, cannot lepak now. I gotta see my friends. I just like video call them like at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Things like that. It's such a simple thing. But yes, Ben, thank you. We needed to be reminded of such a simple thing sometimes. That goes back to building the root of our friendships and relationship with people around us, and that eventually grooms each other's mental health and well-being, checking on each other's well-being. That's such a nice wrap up to this to today's discussion, guys. Thank you so much for getting on board with me, with Huddle as well. It's such a really good topic to talk about. The more we talk about mental health, the less of a taboo it will be, and that's something that we want to move forward with, right? I would end this call. Thank you so much again, Ben and Philip. Thank you so much. I cannot thank you two enough. And for the audience out there, like, you can catch up with the whole video if you miss out certain parts of it. We're gonna feature this on our YouTube page, and you can check this video out directly on our Huddle Facebook page as well. And thank you. Have a good dinner with your family. Stay
Thanks,
home.
Hi, Phil.
I'll
talk to you tomorrow, Phil. I'll send you.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, all the audience.
All right,
I sent
bye.
voice notes. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Huddle.
All right.